Chapter 11. The Keepers of the Lie. They didn't leave the apartment right away. Not because it was safe, because it wasn't, but because shock has a way of pinning people in place long after danger moves on. Broken glass glittered across the floor like ice. The smell of ozone and blood hung heavy in the air. The walls bore deep gouges where claws and weapons had met, and the front door lay in splintered ruin. A jagged mouth opened to the hallway beyond. Emily sat on the edge of the overturned couch, knees pulled to her chest, staring at nothing. Mercer hovered near her, unsure whether to touch her or give her space. His hands still shook faintly. The wolf paced beneath his skin, restless, aware that the hunt hadn't ended, only paused. Julian stood near the shattered window, listening to the city beyond with inhuman focus. "They'll regroup," Julian said quietly. "They always do." Mercer looked up. "Who are they?" Julian turned, red eyes catching the dim light. "Humans who know too much, and believe it's their burden to carry." Emily's voice was thin. "Those men, they weren't cops. They weren't military." "No," Julian agreed. "They're worse." Mercer swallowed. "Black Sun Division." Julian nodded once. "One of their newer names." Emily finally looked at Julian fully. Fear flickered across her face, but beneath it was something else. Curiosity, the need to understand. "You said hunters," she said. "Hunters of what?" Julian met her gaze. "Of us." Silence settled again, heavier than before. Mercer ran a hand through his hair. "Start talking. All of it." Julian hesitated, not out of reluctance, but calculation. Then he exhaled slowly. "You deserve the truth," he said. "Both of you." He gestured toward the wreckage. "Because from this moment on, you're already inside it." They relocated to Mercer's kitchen, the least destroyed space. Mercer poured water with shaking hands. Emily wrapped herself in a blanket she'd grabbed from the bedroom, eyes never leaving Julian. Julian didn't sit. "Humans," Julian began, "have always known about monsters." Mercer frowned. "That's not consciously," Julian corrected, "but instinctively. Myths, legends, religion, all of it is humanity's way of explaining what they could sense but not control." Emily nodded slowly. "Folk tales, superstitions." "Exactly," Julian said. "For most of history, knowledge spread slowly. When vampires fed openly, when werewolves ruled forests, humans adapted through fear." Mercer leaned forward. "And then something changed." "Yes," Julian said. "Humans learned to organize." He folded his hands behind his back. "About 1,000 years ago, give or take, there were too many incidents. Too many unexplained massacres. Too many villages wiped out overnight. Vampires and wolves were at war then, careless with collateral." Emily's jaw tightened. "Us?" Julian inclined his head. "Yes. And humans fought back?" Mercer asked. Julian smiled faintly. "They tried, and failed, repeatedly. But failure teaches," Julian continued. "One man realized something others hadn't." "Who?" Mercer asked. Julian's eyes darkened. "A monk, historian, scholar. His name has been erased, but his idea survived." Julian paused. "He understood that humans couldn't win through force," Julian said. "So they would win through containment." Emily frowned. "Containment how?" "By controlling the narrative," Julian replied. "By hiding us. By turning monsters into stories instead of truths." Mercer felt a chill. "You're saying the hunters didn't just fight you. They curated us," Julian said. Julian paced slowly as he spoke, voice steady, measured. "They formed an order," he continued. "The first human organization dedicated not to extermination, but to management." Emily whispered, "Like animal control." Julian smiled thinly. "If the animals could overthrow governments, yes." The order called themselves the Custodians of the Veil, though that name changed many times over the centuries. Their purpose never did. "They studied us," Julian said, "mapped feeding patterns, learned moon cycles, learned blood rituals, learned which vampires could walk in daylight, which wolves led packs, which territories were sacred." Mercer frowned. "How?" "By surviving," Julian replied simply, "and by observing." and by striking when we were weakest. Emily's hands tightened in the blanket. They experimented on you. Yes, the word hung heavy. Julian's voice hardened. They captured fledglings, cubs, turned ones without guidance. They cut them open, bled them, studied how fast they healed, how silver affected bone, how sunlight damaged flesh. Mercer's jaw clenched. The wolf snarled faintly. They learned our limits, Julian continued. Then they wrote manuals. Emily looked sick. That's monstrous. Julian met her gaze. Humans are very good at becoming monsters when they believe it's necessary. Mercer rubbed his temples. So how did they stay hidden? Julian smiled faintly. The same way we did. They embedded themselves everywhere. Governments, churches, universities, military orders, police departments. Every era, Julian said. They changed faces, changed names, but the mission stayed intact. Keep humanity ignorant, keep monsters contained. And if containment failed? Mercer asked. Julian's eyes gleamed. Then came eradication. Emily shuddered. So Black Sun is a modern branch, Julian said. Privately funded, highly trained, access to technology that blends science and stolen magic. Mercer thought of the weapons, the silver-threaded net, the rune-etched blades. They know what I am, Mercer said quietly. Yes, Julian replied. And worse, they know what you might become. Emily's breath hitched. They wanted to capture him, not kill him. Julian nodded. You are valuable. Mercer scoffed bitterly. That's one word for it. Mercer leaned back, staring at the ceiling. So they knew about vampires and werewolves before modern times, he said. They watched, they studied, they manipulated. Yes, Julian said. And they made damn sure normal people never believed any of it, Mercer added. Julian's smile sharpened. Exactly. Emily looked up. Wait, are you saying? Some of our institutions already know. Julian didn't answer immediately. Some do, he said carefully. In fragments, in rumors, in classified files buried beneath denials. Mercer let out a humorless laugh. Of course. Emily hugged herself tighter. So when people report sightings, they're discredited, Julian finished. Labeled unstable, drunk, delusional. Mercer thought of every case he'd seen dismissed, every report quietly buried. Jesus, Mercer whispered. Julian nodded. The veil is not just supernatural. It is psychological. Emily swallowed. Why now? Julian's expression darkened. Because the balance is breaking, he said. And humans feel it, even if they don't understand it. The Blood King, Mercer said. Yes, Julian replied. When ancient powers stir, the veil weakens. Energy leaks. Patterns shift. Emily frowned. So the hunters sense it? They track it, Julian said. They monitor anomalies, disappearances, unexplained violence. Mercer stiffened. Like the attacks that started all this. Julian nodded. Veilric's actions triggered alarms. And you, Daniel Mercer, are an anomaly that shouldn't exist. Mercer exhaled sharply. Because I'm both. Yes, Julian said. A bridge. Emily's voice trembled. So what happens now? Julian didn't sugarcoat it. Now, he said, you are hunted. A distant siren wailed somewhere in the city. Mercer stood abruptly. We can't stay here. Julian nodded. Agreed. Emily looked between them. Go where? Mercer hesitated. The mountains, he said. The tunnels. Rashad. The king. Julian smiled faintly. The wolves will shelter you for now. Emily's eyes widened. You expect me to just... What? Follow you into a mountain? Mercer turned to her. Emily, I won't force you. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she stood. I watched men with guns break into our apartment, she said. I watched you turn into something impossible. I watched him. She nodded at Julian. Tear them apart like they were nothing. She stepped closer to Mercer. You think I'm going back to pretending this isn't real? Mercer's throat tightened. You shouldn't have to. I want the truth, she said fiercely. All of it. Julian studied her with new interest. She has courage, Julian said. That's dangerous. Emily met his gaze. So is ignorance. Julian smiled genuinely this time. As they gathered what little they could salvage, Mercer felt the weight of it all settling deeper. The hunters weren't random enemies. They were organized, patient, embedded, and they believed they were the good guys. That, Mercer realized, made them far more dangerous than any monster he'd faced so far. Outside, somewhere unseen, Calder watched the building from a distance, eyes cold, mind calculating. The asset has companions now, Calder said quietly into his calm. And confirmation of vampire interference. A voice crackled back. Proceed to phase 2. Calder smiled thinly. Understood. Far beneath the mountains, something ancient shifted in its sleep, and the veil, so carefully maintained for centuries, began to tear. Chapter 12: The Path of Shadows. The city had never felt so cold. Daniel Mercer walked the streets with a heaviness in his heart, the neon lights casting long shadows that seemed to stretch into endless darkness. He knew that every step away from Emily, every choice he made, carried a weight that no human should bear. Yet, the decisions felt necessary, an obligation to protect her, to keep her safe from the storm that swirled around him. He stood at the edge of the city, looking back at the skyline, and then turned away. The decision was made. The mountains welcomed him back with a silence that felt both comforting and oppressive. Mercer had taken a leave of absence from the force, citing personal reasons that no one questioned too deeply. He packed light, carrying only essentials and the determination to embrace the unknown. The journey up the winding trails was solitary, the air growing thinner, the scent of pine and earth grounding him in the present. As he climbed higher, memories of the past days, of Julian, of Emily, of the hunters, faded into the background, replaced by the primal call of the wild. The werewolf pack awaited him, and he knew Rashad and Nida would be there to guide him, to help him understand the path he was now on. In the heart of the mountains, the pack's territory stretched like an ancient kingdom, the forest thick and alive with the whispers of the old ways. Mercer's arrival was met with cautious curiosity and the weight of tradition. Rashad greeted him with a solemn nod, his eyes reflecting the burden of leadership. "You've returned," he said, voice deep and resonant. Mercer nodded. "I had to." Nida stepped forward, her gaze assessing. "You understand the risks, Daniel. Being here, among us, is not without its dangers." "I do," Mercer replied, "but it's where I need to be." Rashad placed a hand on Mercer's shoulder. "Then you'll learn, and we'll teach you." The pack's presence was both a comfort and a reminder of the complexities ahead. Mercer found himself immersed in a world of ancient rituals, the language of the forest, and the bond that tied the werewolves to the land. Every day brought new challenges, new lessons, and a deeper understanding of his own nature. Meanwhile, deep within the shadows of the mountains, Vaelric convened his council. In a cavern lit by flickering torches, the air was thick with the scent of damp stone and the metallic tang of anticipation. Vaelric stood at the head of a gathering that included the fiercest of the Black Hollow pack, each one a formidable presence. Vaelric's eyes burned with a cold fire as he addressed his gathered troops. "The time has come," he said, voice echoing through the chamber. "The Blood King stirs, and we must be ready." A murmur of agreement swept through the assembly. "We have watched, we have waited," Vaelric continued. "Now we strike. The old balance is fractured, and it is our duty to restore it, to claim what is rightfully ours." The leaders of the Black Hollow pack nodded, their expressions grim and determined. "Prepare yourselves," Vaelric commanded. "We will not just awaken the Blood King, we will control him. Together we will reshape the world." As the council dispersed, the air buzzed with the promise of change, of power reclaimed. Vaelric stood alone for a moment, his gaze turning toward the distant city, where Mercer's choices had already begun to ripple through the fabric of their world. Back in the mountains, Mercer's days blended into a rhythm of training and reflection. He learned the ways of the pack, the importance of unity and the strength found in the wild. Rashad and Nida guided him, teaching him to balance the human and the wolf within. Yet, Even as he embraced this new life, the memory of Emily lingered. Her face, her voice, the promise of a future he couldn't offer her. He knew that the path he walked was dangerous, that the stakes were higher than ever. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the peaks, Mercer and Rashad stood overlooking the valley, the sky painted in hues of orange and purple. "Do you ever wonder," Mercer asked, "if we're just pawns in a larger game?" Rashad's eyes were thoughtful. "Perhaps, but it's how we play the game that defines us." Mercer nodded, feeling the weight of those words. In the distance, the mountains whispered, and the winds carried the scent of change. As the days passed, Mercer felt himself growing stronger, more attuned to the rhythms of the wild. He ran with the pack, his senses sharp, his instincts honed. The bond he shared with the wolves deepened, and he began to understand the true meaning of the balance they sought to protect. But the shadow of Vaelric's plan loomed large, and Mercer knew that the coming days would test him in ways he couldn't yet imagine. In the heart of the mountains, the line between man and beast blurred, and the journey ahead promised both danger and discovery. Chapter 12: The Path of Shadows. The city had never felt so cold. Daniel Mercer walked the streets with a heaviness in his heart, the neon lights casting long shadows that seemed to stretch into endless darkness. He knew that every step away from Emily, every choice he made, carried a weight that no human should bear. Yet, the decisions felt necessary, an obligation to protect her, to keep her safe from the storm that swirled around him. He stood at the edge of the city, looking back at the skyline, and then turned away. The decision was made. The mountains welcomed him back with a silence that felt both comforting and oppressive. Mercer had taken a leave of absence from the force, citing personal reasons that no one questioned too deeply. He packed light, carrying only essentials and the determination to embrace the unknown. The journey up the winding trails was solitary, the air growing thinner, the scent of pine and earth grounding him in the present. As he climbed higher, memories of the past days, of Julian, of Emily, of the hunters, faded into the background, replaced by the primal call of the wild. The werewolf pack awaited him, and he knew Rashad and Nida would be there to guide him, to help him understand the path he was now on. In the heart of the mountains, the pack's territory stretched like an ancient kingdom, the forest thick and alive with the whispers of the old ways. Mercer's arrival was met with cautious curiosity and the weight of tradition. Rashad greeted him with a solemn nod, his eyes reflecting the burden of leadership. "You've returned," he said, voice deep and resonant. Mercer nodded. "I had to." Nida stepped forward, her gaze assessing. "You understand the risks, Daniel. Being here, among us, is not without its dangers." "I do," Mercer replied, "but it's where I need to be." Rashad placed a hand on Mercer's shoulder. "Then you'll learn, and we'll teach you." The pack's presence was both a comfort and a reminder of the complexities ahead. Mercer found himself immersed in a world of ancient rituals, the language of the forest, and the bond that tied the werewolves to the land. Every day brought new challenges, new lessons, and a deeper understanding of his own nature. Meanwhile, deep within the shadows of the mountains, Vaelric convened his council. In a cavern lit by flickering torches, the air was thick with the scent of damp stone and the metallic tang of anticipation. Vaelric stood at the head of a gathering that included the fiercest of the Black Hollow Pack, each one a formidable presence. Vaelric's eyes burned with a cold fire as he addressed his gathered troops. "The time has come," he said, voice echoing through the chamber. "The Blood King stirs, and we must be ready." A murmur of agreement swept through the assembly. "We have watched, we have waited," Vaelric continued. "Now we strike. The old balance is fractured, and it is our duty to restore it, to claim what is rightfully ours." The leaders of the Black Hollow Pack nodded, their expressions grim and determined. "Prepare yourselves," Vaelric commanded. "We will not just awaken the Blood King, we will control him. Together we will reshape the world." As the council dispersed, the air buzzed with the promise of change, of power reclaimed. Vaelric stood alone for a moment, his gaze turning toward the distant city, where Mercer's choices had already begun to ripple through the fabric of their world. Back in the mountains, Mercer's days blended into a rhythm of training and reflection. He learned the ways of the pack, the importance of unity and the strength found in the wild. Rashad and Nida guided him, teaching him to balance the human and the wolf within. Yet, even as he embraced this new life, the memory of Emily lingered. Her face, her voice, the promise of a future he couldn't offer her. He knew that the path he walked was dangerous, that the stakes were higher than ever. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the peaks, Mercer and Rashad stood overlooking the valley, the sky painted in hues of orange and purple. "Do you ever wonder," Mercer asked, "if we're just pawns in a larger game?" Rashad's eyes were thoughtful. "Perhaps, but it's how we play the game that defines us." Mercer nodded, feeling the weight of those words. In the distance, the mountains whispered, and the winds carried the scent of change. As the days passed, Mercer felt himself growing stronger, more attuned to the rhythms of the wild. He ran with the pack, his senses sharp, his instincts honed. The bond he shared with the wolves deepened, and he began to understand the true meaning of the balance they sought to protect. But the shadow of Vaelric's plan loomed large, and Mercer knew that the coming days would test him in ways he couldn't yet imagine. In the heart of the mountains, the line between man and beast blurred, and the journey ahead promised both danger and discovery. Chapter 14. The night the mountains burned. The war began without a declaration. There was no single horn blast, no formal challenge issued beneath a full moon. It started the way all true wars did, quietly, with intent, with blood already promised. Daniel Mercer felt it before he saw it. The mountains shifted their tone, the way an animal stiffens before a strike. The wind changed direction, carrying with it the sharp, acrid scent of smoke and old iron. Wolves across the high ridges lifted their heads in unison, ears flattening, muscles coiling. Rashad, king of the werewolves, stood at the edge of the stone outcropping overlooking the valley, his massive frame silhouetted against a bruised purple sky. His eyes glowed faintly, not with rage, but with focus. "They've crossed the boundary," Rashad said quietly. Mercer stepped beside him, boots crunching against frost-laced gravel. "Black Hollow?" Rashad nodded once. "Vaelric doesn't test borders unless he intends to break them." Below them, torches flared to life in the forest like malignant stars. Dozens at first, then hundreds. The Black Hollow pack was coming. The allied forces moved fast. Werewolves poured from hidden paths and ravines, their movements coordinated, disciplined. This wasn't a feral mob, it was an army. Mercer had never seen anything like it. Different packs converged, each marked by subtle differences in fur color, size, and posture, yet all answering the same silent command. "Elena is already mobilizing her covens," Rashad said. "The vampires will hold the lower passes." Mercer swallowed. "You trust them?" Rashad's gaze remained fixed on the valley. "I trust necessity." A howl ripped through the night, deep, resonant, ancient. It wasn't a challenge. It was a signal. The ground shook as the first clash erupted. The valley became chaos. Black Hollow wolves surged forward in dark waves, their fur matted and scarred, eyes burning with savage hunger. They were larger than most, thicker through the chest, their movements less restrained, Vaelric's influence written into their flesh. They hit the allied line like a living battering ram. The sound was indescribable, bones colliding, claws scraping stone, snarls layered over screams. Mercer shifted as he ran, the transformation slamming through him with practiced violence. His body welcomed it now, muscles expanding, senses sharpening into lethal clarity. He crashed into the fray, tackling a Black Hollow wolf mid-lunge. They rolled across the ground, snapping and clawing, until Mercer drove his forearm beneath the wolf's jaw and felt cartilage give. He didn't hesitate. This was war. Nearby, Rashad fought like a force of nature. Where he moved, the enemy broke. He tore through Black Hollow ranks with brutal efficiency, each strike purposeful, controlled. He was not fighting out of rage, but command. Above them, something screamed. Mercer looked up just in time to see shadows drop from the cliffs. Vampires. They fell like living weapons, cloaks snapping behind them, fangs flashing silver-white in the moonlight. They hit the rear of the Black Hollow formation with surgical precision, ripping throats, disabling limbs, vanishing and reappearing in blurs of impossible speed. Elena Vasquez landed atop a boulder near the center of the battlefield, crimson eyes blazing. "Hold the line," she commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "Do not let them reach the inner valley." Black Hollow responded with fury. Valeric had prepared them for this. From the enemy ranks emerged wolves twisted by something unnatural. Veins dark and pulsing, eyes glazed with frenzy. They moved without fear, throwing themselves into combat with reckless abandon. Mercer realized with horror that they didn't feel pain. "They're enhanced," he growled into Rashad's comm channel. "Something's wrong with them." "I know," Rashad replied grimly. "Valeric has been experimenting." The battle escalated. Fire erupted as vampire alchemists hurled ignited compounds into dense enemy clusters. Trees burned, stone shattered. The mountains echoed with the sounds of ancient violence reborn. Mercer fought until time lost meaning. He took wounds, deep gashes across his flank, a shattered rib that reknit itself mid-fight, but he stayed on his feet. Around him, wolves fell. Vampires turned to ash under crushing blows. Blood soaked the ground until the earth itself seemed to scream. Then, everything shifted. A roar rolled across the valley, deeper than any howl. Valeric entered the battlefield. He didn't charge. He walked. The Black Hollow wolves parted instinctively as their alpha emerged, towering even among his kind. His fur was midnight black, streaked with silver scars that pulsed faintly red. His eyes glowed a molten amber, ancient and cold. Valeric surveyed the battlefield with disdain. "So this is the alliance you scraped together," he said, his voice carrying impossibly far. "Wolves who bow to kings, vampires clinging to treaties." Elena stepped forward, blood dripping from her chin. "You lost the right to speak of unity when you turned your pack into monsters." Valeric smiled, a slow, cruel curl of his muzzle. "And yet, look how well they kill." He raised a clawed hand. Black Hollow wolves surged again with renewed ferocity. Mercer felt the pressure like a physical weight. Valeric wasn't just commanding. He was amplifying them, pouring something dark into their veins. Rashad moved. The Werewolf King charged Valeric head-on. The impact when they collided cracked stone. They tore into each other with devastating force. Two ancient powers locked in a struggle that shook the ground. Claws ripped fur. Teeth met bone. Rashad fought with discipline. Valeric with unrestrained savagery. Mercer tried to reach them. He never made it. 3 Black Hollow elites intercepted him, moving as one. He fought them desperately, tearing through 2, but the 3rd slammed him into the dirt, claws at his throat. A blur of crimson ended it. Elena stood over Mercer, bloodied but unbroken. "Stay alive," she snapped. "You're not done yet." Then she was gone again. The battle raged on. But slowly, inevitably, the tide began to turn. Valeric's enhanced wolves burned out. Whatever unnatural force drove them came at a cost. Their movements slowed. Their coordination fractured. Vampires exploited openings with ruthless efficiency, while Rashad's forces tightened their formation, pressing the advantage. Valeric noticed. His eyes flicked across the field, calculating. Then Rashad landed a blow that sent him skidding across stone. The Black Hollow Alpha rose slowly, chest heaving. For the first time that night, Valeric looked displeased. "This isn't over," he snarled. Rashad bared his teeth. "It is tonight." A final coordinated push shattered the Black Hollow line. Wolves fled. Some were dragged down. Others vanished into the forest, howling in defeat. Valeric stood his ground until the last possible moment. Then he retreated, leaping backward into shadow, his form dissolving into darkness as his remaining warriors followed. The war ended. For now, dawn broke over a battlefield of ruin. Smoke drifted between shattered trees. The ground was torn and blood-soaked, scarred by claw and fire. Survivors moved among the fallen in grim silence. Mercer shifted back to human form near a creek, washing blood from his hands that wasn't entirely his own. His body ached in ways it hadn't before. Elena joined him, her expression unreadable. "You fought well," she said. Mercer looked toward the mountains where Veilric had vanished. He let himself lose. Elena's lips pressed thin. "Yes." Rashad approached, wounds already healing. "Veilric doesn't commit fully unless victory is guaranteed." Mercer frowned. "Then why attack at all?" Rashad's eyes darkened. "Because this was never the real war." Miles away, deep within a cavern hidden beneath jagged stone, Veilric paced. His remaining pack knelt around him, bloodied, furious, humiliated. "We lost," one of them growled. Veilric turned, eyes blazing. "No, we learned." He moved to the far end of the cavern, where ancient symbols glowed faintly against the rock. Chains lay coiled at the center of the chamber. Old, heavy, etched with runes that hummed with dormant power. Something moved in the shadows beyond them. "Let them celebrate their victory," Veilric said softly. "Let them believe this war can be won with claws and fangs." He placed a hand against the stone, feeling the pulse beneath it. "Our secret weapon has waited long enough." A low, inhuman sound echoed from the darkness. Veilric smiled. "I will return," he vowed. "And when I do, the mountains will kneel." Chapter 15. What Sleeps Beneath the Stone. Victory tasted like ash. Daniel Mercer stood at the edge of the ravaged valley long after the others had begun tending to their wounded. Dawn had fully broken now, pale light spilling across scorched earth and broken trees, illuminating the true cost of the night's war. Bodies, wolf and vampire alike, lay where they had fallen, some already dissolving into ash, others eerily still, blood soaking into soil that had known far too much of it over the centuries. The mountains were quiet again, too quiet. Mercer wiped dried blood from his knuckles and flexed his fingers. They still trembled, not from exhaustion, but from the echo of violence thrumming through his bones. The wolf inside him hadn't settled. It paced, restless, unsettled by something unfinished. He wasn't the only one who felt it. Rashad stood a short distance away, speaking in low tones with Elena Vasquez. The werewolf king's massive frame bore the marks of battle, gashes closing slowly, fur still darkened with blood. Elena looked no less formidable, her elegant composure cracked just enough to reveal the ancient predator beneath. Her crimson eyes kept drifting toward the eastern mountains, toward the direction Veilric had fled. Mercer approached them. "He's not done," Mercer said quietly. Rashad glanced at him. "No." Elena folded her arms. "Veilric never commits without contingency. Last night was a test. Of us. Of you. Of what he's waking," Mercer added. "That earned him both of their attention." Elena tilted her head slightly. "You felt it too." Mercer nodded. Something moved. Not just power, awareness. Like the mountain itself breathed. Rashad's jaw tightened. "Then we no longer have the luxury of pretending this is merely a pack war." The survivors regrouped by mid-morning. Wolves moved among their injured, laying hands on wounds, murmuring in an ancient tongue that seemed to coax flesh and bone toward healing. Vampires worked more efficiently, silent, precise, ensuring their fallen were either recovered or burned, leaving nothing for humans to find. Elias Crow and the remaining wardens stood apart, weapons lowered but not holstered. Their presence was tolerated, not welcomed. Crow approached Mercer cautiously. "You held your own." Mercer eyed him. "You knew this would happen." Crow didn't deny it. "We suspected. We just didn't know when." "Or what," Mercer said. Crow's gaze flicked toward Rashad and Elena. "Some things are classified even among monsters." That word earned him a low growl from somewhere behind Mercer. Crow raised his hand slightly. "No offense intended." Rashad spoke then, his voice carrying easily. "You came here with weapons and secrets, Warden. If you intend to stay involved, you will share what you know." Crow hesitated. Elena's smile was thin and dangerous. "I assure you, Elias, secrecy will no longer protect your order if Veilric succeeds." Silence stretched. Finally, Crow sighed. "Very well, but not here." They moved to higher ground, a natural stone amphitheater overlooking the valley. The air up there felt heavier, older. Mercer noticed faint carvings in the rock beneath his boots, nearly worn away by time. Crow gestured to them. "You're standing on a seal." Rashad stiffened. "Explain." Crow took a breath. "The wardens exist for one purpose: to prevent extinction-level supernatural events. Not just exposure, but annihilation. Humans, wolves, vampires, all of it." Elena's eyes narrowed. "You're referring to the sovereign beasts." Crow nodded grimly. "Among other things." Mercer frowned. "English." Crow looked at him. "Long before your cities, before treaties and thrones, there were beings that fed on more than blood or flesh. They fed on dominion, fear, worship." "The Blood King," Mercer said. "Yes," Crow replied, "but that's only one name. In our oldest texts, he is called Morvithkel, the Devourer Crown, an ancient vampire-wolf hybrid created during a failed attempt at unification." Elena's expression darkened. "A lie born of desperation. A truth born of hubris," Crow countered. "Your ancestors and the wolves tried to end their war by creating a king that could rule both species." Rashad growled. "We sealed him away when we realized the cost." Crow nodded. "Beneath these mountains, bound by blood, moon, and stone." Mercer felt his stomach drop. "And Veilric wants to free him." "Not free," Elena said slowly. "Control." Crow met her gaze. "That's the secret weapon he referred to. Morvithkel doesn't just command packs or covens. He bends them, breaks will, turns loyalty into instinct." Silence fell again. Mercer looked down at his hands. "Then I'm already compromised." Elena studied him intently. "You were marked, not claimed." Rashad placed a heavy hand on Mercer's shoulder. "Which means you may be the only one who can get close without losing himself." Mercer let out a sharp laugh. "No pressure." They didn't have long to debate. A scout returned at a run. One of Rashad's wolves in human form, eyes wide with urgency. "King," he said breathlessly. "Black Hollow survivors are regrouping near the Obsidian Pass." Rashad straightened. "How many?" "Fewer than before, but they're not alone." Elena's gaze sharpened. "What do you mean?" The scout swallowed. "They've taken something from the ruins. Something chained." Every instinct Mercer had screamed. Crow cursed under his breath. "He's accelerating again." Rashad turned to Mercer. "You're not ready for this." Mercer met his gaze steadily. "I don't think readiness is part of the equation anymore." Elena stepped closer. "If Veilric completes the ritual binding, Morvithkel won't wake as a prisoner. He'll wake as a king," Mercer finished. Rashad looked between them, then nodded once. "Then we move before nightfall." The Obsidian Pass was wrong. Mercer felt it the moment they crossed the threshold. A pressure behind the eyes, a low-frequency hum that vibrated through bone. The stone walls rose steep and jagged, black as spilled ink, etched with symbols that seemed to shift when not looked at directly. Veilric's presence lingered here. They advanced cautiously, wolves flanking high ground, vampires moving like living shadows along the stone. Mercer walked at the center, every sense stretched to breaking. "Do you hear that?" he murmured. Elena nodded. A heartbeat. Then the ground shook. Chains clanked. A roar echoed from deep within the pass. Low, ancient, hungry. Black Hollow wolves emerged from hiding, attacking with renewed ferocity, desperation driving them harder than before. Mercer shifted mid-stride, crashing into the fray as steel met claw and stone shattered under force. He fought through them, guided by instinct toward the source of the sound. Veilric stood at the far end of the pass, arms raised, blood streaking his fur. Before him, embedded in stone, were massive chains, old beyond reckoning, wrapped around a shape too large, too wrong to fully see. The eyes opened, red, fast, aware. Mercer froze. Veilric turned, smiling through blood and ruin. "You're just in time," he called, "to witness the beginning." Rashad roared and charged. Elena's voice rang out in a command older than language. The chains began to crack. Mercer felt the wolf inside him howl in terror and recognition. Whatever slept beneath the mountain was waking, and this time there might be no sealing it away. Chapter 16. The King Beneath Kings. The earth split open. Not cracked, not trembled, but opened, as if the mountain itself had been holding its breath for millennia and had finally decided to exhale. Daniel Mercer was thrown off his feet as the ground convulsed beneath him. Stone sheared away in massive slabs, sliding into the abyss that yawned open at the heart of Obsidian Pass. Wolves howled in panic and fury alike. Vampires scattered with blinding speed as ancient runes carved into the rock flared white-hot, then shattered like glass. Chains screamed, not metal against stone, but metal against will. Vaelric stood at the edge of the widening chasm, arms raised, fur soaked with blood, his voice echoing unnaturally across the battlefield. "Behold," he roared, "the beginning of the end." Mercer pushed himself up, ears ringing, vision blurred. The wolf inside him recoiled, not in fear alone, but in recognition. Something deep, ancestral, buried far below conscious thought, was screaming one word over and over: King. The chains embedded in the stone snapped one by one. Each break sent a shockwave through every werewolf present. Wolves dropped to their knees mid-charge, clutching their heads as if struck. Even Rashad, the reigning werewolf king, staggered, one massive hand bracing against the ground. Elena Vasquez felt it too. Her knees buckled for half a second before she caught herself, crimson eyes widening not with pain, but with awe. "No," she whispered. "That's not possible." The shape in the chasm rose. At first, Mercer's mind refused to process it. It was too large, too wrong. Then it fully emerged into the moonlight. The Lycaean stood over 20 feet tall. Its body was a fusion of impossible contradictions. Towering, broad-shouldered, power layered upon power. Its legs were digitigrade and massive, ending in claws the size of swords. Thick black fur ran along its spine and limbs, streaked with veins of crimson light that pulsed like a living circulatory system. Its chest was barrel-wide, ribcage visible beneath translucent skin etched with ancient sigils. Its head was lupin, yet unmistakably vampiric. Fangs longer than any vampire's curved from its upper jaw, dripping dark, viscous blood that hissed when it hit stone. Its eyes burned a deep, intelligent red, old beyond comprehension, aware beyond mercy. Bat-like wings, torn and scarred, unfurled slowly from its back, stretching wide enough to blot out the moon. The battlefield went silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. Crow, the warden commander, staggered backward, his face drained of color. "That's not Morveth Kell," he breathed. Elena didn't look away. "No," she said softly. "That is Lycaean." Rashad struggled to stand, teeth bared in defiance and something dangerously close to reverence. "The first king." Vaelric laughed, wild, triumphant. "Yes, the original, the one who ruled before crowns and councils, the one who will bend Morveth Kell to his will." The Lycaean's head turned slowly. Its gaze landed on Vaelric, and Vaelric froze. The massive creature's lips peeled back, not in a snarl, but in a smile. "You misunderstand," Lycaean said. His voice did not roar, pressed. It entered minds directly, bypassing ears, vibrating through bone and blood. Every werewolf on the battlefield dropped instantly to one knee. Some collapsed entirely, overcome by the weight of it. Vaelric's triumphant grin faltered. "My king!" Lycaean raised one clawed hand. Vaelric slammed into the ground as if struck by an invisible force, body cracking stone on impact. He gasped, choking, unable to move. "I am no one's weapon," Lycaean continued calmly, "and I have never been commanded." Mercer felt his own body strain toward the ground, muscles locking, spine screaming. He fought it harder than he had ever fought anything. His mark burned like molten iron, anchoring him somewhere between submission and resistance. Lycaean's gaze snapped to him. Interesting, that voice whispered inside Mercer's skull. Rashad forced himself upright inch by inch, fury blazing through the compulsion. "You were sealed away for a reason." Lycaean turned his massive head toward Rashad, studying him like a curiosity. "You wear my title," he said, "but you do not carry my authority." Rashad growled. "The world has moved on." Lycaean laughed softly. "Has it?" He spread his arms. Every werewolf present, Black Hollow and allied alike, howled in unison, a sound torn from their throats without consent. Mercer felt his wolf strain forward violently, desperate to kneel, to obey, to belong. Elena stepped forward, eyes blazing. "This is not your age anymore, Lycaon." Lycaon regarded her thoughtfully. "Ah, the blood-bound queen." She stiffened. "You know me. I know all your line," Lycaon replied. "I watched your kind crawl from my shadow and convince yourselves you were something new." Crow raised his weapon despite trembling hands. "You're not walking out of here." Lycaon's eyes flicked toward him. Crow was lifted off the ground, suspended midair, choking. "Human," Lycaon said without malice. "You should not be alive to witness this." Mercer moved without thinking. He stepped forward, each step an act of defiance against the crushing pull of Lycaon's will. "Let him go," Mercer said. Every eye snapped to him. Valeric stared in disbelief. Rashad went still. Elena's breath caught. Lycaon lowered Crow slowly back to the ground, his gaze locking onto Mercer fully now. "And who?" Lycaon asked. "Are you to speak?" Mercer swallowed, forcing his voice steady. "Someone who won't kneel." The silence that followed was deafening. Then Lycaon laughed again, this time genuinely amused. "Marked by vampire blood," he mused. "Bound to the wolf, yet unclaimed. You walk a narrow bridge, Daniel Mercer." Mercer's heart slammed. "You know my name." "I know all wolves," Lycaon said. "And you are becoming one, whether you wish it or not." Valeric struggled against the invisible pressure, snarling. "Kill him. He's nothing." Lycaon's expression hardened. With a flick of his claw, Valeric was dragged across the stone and lifted into the air, dangling helplessly. "You mistook proximity for power," Lycaon said coldly. "You freed me believing I would serve you." Valeric gasped. "I freed you. You unsealed me," Lycaon corrected. "That does not make you my master." He tightened his grip. Bones cracked. Valeric screamed. "Enough!" Rashad roared. "This ends now." Lycaon turned back to the assembled forces. Werewolves kneeling, vampires braced for war, humans frozen between terror and duty. "Listen well," Lycaon said. "This world is broken." His wings spread wider, casting everything into shadow. Wolves divided, vampires hiding behind treaties, humans playing at gods with rules they do not understand. He gestured toward the mountains. "I was king when balance existed, when the moon and blood answered to one voice." Elena's fists clenched. "Balance through domination is not balance." Lycaon's eyes narrowed slightly, spoken like someone who has never truly ruled. He lowered Valeric, dropping him unconscious at his feet. "I offer an ultimatum," Lycaon continued, voice echoing across the stone. "One that will decide whether this world survives what comes next." Mercer felt the weight of it settle like a blade at his throat. "Wolves," Lycaon said, "will return to a single crown mine." Rashad snarled but did not interrupt. "Vampires will abandon their secrecy and kneel as my allies, or be hunted as rivals." Elena's eyes flashed dangerously. "And humans," Lycaon finished, turning his gaze to Crow and Mercer, "will cease their interference. No more hunters. No more chains." Crow shook his head. "You're declaring war on the world." Lycaon smiled slowly. "No," he said. "I am declaring order." He leaned forward, massive face lowering closer to the battlefield. "You have until the next full moon to decide." The ground trembled as Lycaon stepped backward toward the chasm. "If you refuse," he said calmly, "I will wake Morvith-Kell and let him remind you what true extinction feels like." With a thunderous crash, Lycaon folded his wings and descended back into the abyss, the stone ceiling behind him as ancient runes flared anew. Silence followed, broken, heavy. Rashad exhaled slowly. "This changes everything." Elena looked at Mercer, something like fear flickering behind her composure. "He didn't bow to you." Mercer stared at the sealed chasm, his mark burning hotter than ever. "No," Mercer said quietly. "He noticed me, far beneath the mountain." Lycaon's voice echoed softly through the stone. "Choose wisely, little bridge. Kings are returning,